Welcome to the Grandpa Channel. I'm Steve Harris, but my grandkids call me Rivers. Here we ask a simple question. What did life teach you the hard way? Because a lifetime reveals things you can't learn any other way. On this show, we sit down with people who lived a little, stumbled a little, and learned a few things along the way. Sometimes the stories are funny. Sometimes they're tender. But the best ones carry a little hard-earned wisdom. So pull up a chair, because what a lifetime reveals can steady another. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wished you had just a little bit more of someone who's gone? Maybe their voice, the way they told the story, or that crooked smile that always showed up when they were just about to say something a little salty. Most of us don't think about capturing those things until it's too late. That's why I recently sat down and recorded my life story on video. Not the whole thing, just the good stuff, the messy stuff, the funny stuff, the stuff I don't want my kids and grandkids to forget about me. Planet Media made it so easy. They came to me, set up everything, and then worked their editing voodoo magic and made me look like $1,000,000. If you've ever thought about preserving your story for the people you love, this is the way to do it. Go to planetmediaco.com. Tell them Rivers sent you, and you'll get a nice little Grandpa Channel discount. All right, back to the show. Hello, and welcome to the Grandpa Channel. We have a delightful guest today. His name is Bob Cupitt, and he is an Aussie. Tell us just a little bit about yourself.
I live in a household of 2 daughters, a wife, and a female dog. So I know my place, Steve.
So start off with a kind of a hard question. What did life teach you? What are some things maybe that life taught you the hard way?
Yeah. Wow. How long have you got, Steve? I suppose, the thing that I've sort of learned over the journey is you have sliding door moments. And, sometimes we've made good decisions. Sometimes we've made less good decisions. And having daughters growing up now, one thing I've sort of learnt with them is it's their journey, and you've got to be part of that journey, not drive that journey.
Is there a particular sliding door moment that you can think of right now? What's the story behind it that had kind of some far-reaching consequences for you?
Yeah, I've sort of had about 3 or 4 of them. I suppose one of those first sliding door moments was I was either going to teachers college or going into the workforce, and I chose against my parents, much to their disgust, to go to teachers college.
Really?
Yeah.
Why weren't they supportive of you going to teachers college?
I think it's a generational thing. People finished school and went to work, so that taught me a lesson that you got to be true to yourself and make those decisions. Now, that wasn't a popular decision. And I suppose coming back to your original question, sometimes it's really easy to say what people want to hear. It's not easy to say what people need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found that I've got myself into so much trouble over the years because I tend to fall into the latter. Something needs to be said. I'm the idiot that puts my hand up and says it, and So I suppose where you want to be and how you want to be perceived is, I understand people, not everyone will like me, and I'm comfortable with that, but what you really look for is respect. If they respect you, then that's awesome. If they like you, that's a bonus. So, yeah. But it's not necessarily easy when your daughters are in the same situation and you try to apply that rule for them. I'm sure you've been through the same things.
I'm afraid I have. What are maybe another sliding door moment that you can think of?
Yeah, I'm teaching. I was teaching for a number of years, and then I went, well, this has got to be something more to teaching because, from my perspective, teaching is about the kids, and I really enjoyed that, love that, but teaching became less and less about what happened with the kids and more about following rules. Mm-hmm. And I suppose I'm a bit of a rule breaker. I left teaching and got involved in commercial work. And that was the turning point where I ended up going from teaching in the classroom to running a company with global offices in Boston, one in London, and here in Australia, and got to travel the world and got to see amazing things, meet amazing people. I didn't make the popular decision because it was easy to stay teaching, but going the commercial world, and then backing yourself. It's like getting in at the deep end of the pool and you swim as hard as you can to get to the shallow end.
Has there been a mistake that has shaped you more than your successes ever could?
I was quite a good sportsman and would have played at, represented, say, from your perspective, at Utah state level. So I was a state representative in a couple of sports, and it was focused on the outcome, not that journey. It took me about 40 years to realise, wow, if you'd have just focused on what you were doing, not the achievement, we would have been much more successful in my endeavours. So, yeah, that was a hard lesson, very hard lesson to learn.
Tell me, what have you done? What have been some times in your life when you felt most fully alive?
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to those sliding moments when, I left teaching and then I got involved in commercial to the point of running a business and travelling around the world and seeing places I would never have seen. I mean, that was awesome. And then obviously, as you're a family man, kids come along, and my eldest daughter has autism, and seeing her grow and then become school vice captain was awesome. And now she's at Melbourne Uni, and my youngest daughter has had some major challenges, but she's fought through them, and yeah, we've gone through things we never ever expected. Seeing her now is just so rewarding. I mean, those the things are important. And, as stressful as they are, when you come out the other end, that's when you feel really, really good.
Yeah. What do you believe now that you once either resisted or dismissed or felt certain about? I'll give you, from my end, I'm 70, and I tell people that I have a lot fewer answers than I used to when I was 30. But the answers that I have are really, really good, and they've been tried and true and tested. How have you found it in your life?
Yeah, I think it's less certain. I mean, and then the self-doubt, and I think everyone goes through that at different stages in their career, my sporting career. I mean, had I been more focused on the process, not the outcome, then I would have achieved a bit more. But I think the thing is, what I've learned now is focusing on the journey, not the outcome, and enjoying the journey. That's really helped in the last 10 years.
Let's go back and talk about your oldest daughter and her autism. How old was she when you started kind of noticing that a few things were off?
Well, my wife picked it up pretty much when she was a toddler, and she wouldn't sleep, and Lisa had such a tough time, obviously. And I was traveling a lot during that time with obviously running a company and being in the States and being in Europe. And so, yeah, she picked up on it really quickly. And yeah, we just, she's a researcher, so she did a lot of reading, and yeah, we sort of put things in place. Yeah, my daughter's now found her tribe, people of similar ilk. She's got a lot of good friends, and she has really blossomed and come out, her personality, which we always knew was there. And again, as a parent, you've been down this path. That's just, you can't ask for more than that. That's a great outcome.
What would you tell a parent, Bob, that just maybe they have a small child who looks like she or he might have similar issues that your oldest daughter have? What advice would you and your wife have for them?
Well, first of all, getting the right support structures in place, from an education perspective. I'm not sure what the system in North America is like, but in Australia, you have to get a diagnosis, and it's a really long road. Credit to my wife who wouldn't take no for an answer. She was dogmatic and got that. So, stay the distance and get what you can from support structures for your children. Yeah, it's not always easy, but obviously, you've got to embrace who they are. There's so many times I've had to bite my tongue going, don't say anything. Don't say anything. And trust me, Zabby would attest to, that's probably not easy for me.
She does mention that you're outspoken. She did say that.
But again, you got to be true to who you are.
What sports did you enjoy when you were younger in Australia?
I played cricket and hockey.
Really?
And yeah, represented New South Wales at both. at schoolboy level, and now I'm a golfer. I can't compete, but I'm involved with our elite program, so I get to work with kids who are potentially professional golfers. The great thing about that is for some of those kids, I've become a mentor, and they, if they want some advice about things, they'll ring me up, and to me, that's the most important thing. When that happened, I went, wow, how good is this? And when we were having some, tough times with my kids, they were ringing, on a regular basis, checking how I was. And to me, that's what, sport can do. It's, it's not all about the outcome. And again, I go back to, I'm now, learning about the journey and understanding how I can help them with their journey. Just be a sounding board.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I caddy for a kid in a professional event in the weekend, and who I was involved in when he was 16 years old, and his behaviour is sort of falling off the track. And I've just called it and said, "You're very talented, but your brand is really important. And if you continue to behave like that, then you're muddying your brand, and people don't want to buy a muddy brand."
If you were speaking now, Bob, what would you tell the 28-year-old Bob? What advice would you give the 28-year-old Bob now?
You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
If you were to kind of condense down what life has taught you, this is a tough question. What life has taught you in one sentence, or maybe a couple of sentences, what would it be?
I think it's about everyone has their own journey, and I think it's important that you understand, whether it's friends, whether it's business. It's about building the relationships with people and understanding and remembering something special about every person you meet. Remember one thing, and I was taught that very young. I was a lucky recipient of a ministerial award when I was working education, and the minister presented it to me, the Minister for Education at the time, who meets 1 million people. And I ran into him about 6-8 weeks later at an event, and he asked me how our project was going, and he remembered the project, and I went,
"Really?
Wow, that is impressive."
Yeah.
It was off the cuff. It wasn't like he had a minder there, and I learnt, and I went, wow, that is very impressive people management. And my advice is understand how to manage people and work with people, because at the end of the day, whether AI takes over the world or not, people buy from people, people talk to people, and I think that's, one of the skills, that we can all develop, whether we have autism or we have anything. That is a really important skill to have. That's the whole thing, is if you incorporate that with understanding people or wanting to know a bit more about people, then it's easy to develop strong relationships with friends and colleagues. Yeah. So, and that comes in creating respect. They respect you, whether they mightn't always like you, and that's fine, but they respect.
Yeah. I've had a really enjoyable chat with you today, Bob, and I'm so grateful to have met you. And do you have anything kind of fly into your mind that you'd like to share on the Grandpa Channel?
It's around that connecting with people. That's, to me, that's the key. More communication than less communication is really important. Like people I work with in North America, I'm still really good friends with. 25 years later, we talk to each other probably every month or 2 months. We're still in contact. I mean, that's gold.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
And hopefully one day they'll let me back into your country, and we'll be able to come to Utah.
Come to Utah, I'll buy you lunch, and we can have a few laughs.
I really look forward to meeting you. And
well, thank you so much. That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. If something you heard made you laugh, pause, or see life a little differently, pass it along. We're gathering the lessons people learned the hard way, the stories, the second thoughts, and the wisdom that only comes with time. And we'd love to hear yours. What did life teach you the hard way? Until next time, keep the perspective honest and the stories coming. I'm Rivers, and I'm out of here.